Right, folks. So good evening and welcome to the session of National Youth Parliament. Today, it is a preliminary session where we are doing a discussion on economic survey of India. And I'm your, host, and I'm going to talk about few things. For the moment, I have put everyone on mute. But if you have any question, raise your hand, and I will come to you. This session is also being live webcast on the Think Startups YouTube channel, so you can go there and you can after the event, if you really want to catch any detail, any data, you can go there. Now, for the session, we have two parts. Right, the first part, I'm going to talk about the economic survey, which has been presented today on the floor of the Parliament by this time. This has been presented by Nirmala Sitharaman, who is a finance minister. Traditionally, economic survey was presented by the chief economic advisor. And I'm going to talk about the key highlights of economic survey. That's the first part of the discussion of the briefing today. And the second part of the briefing is about from this stage, right? So far we have received about 30 video submissions. Some teams have asked for time extension, so we have extended it till 10 p.m. tonight. For they might be struggling with bandwidth issues and all that. So the second part is all about what next from here, right? Is that okay? Thumbs up, anyone? Right, thanks. So we have received video submissions on stage 2 from students right from Chennai, Pondicherry, Kashmir, Ludhiana, Delhi, right? So many schools have submitted from multiple locations, and so that's the excitement. This is team submission. I can see few of the people who were participants of the previous NYP. So great to see you back here. I can also see Youth Ideathon participants. Daksh Kishore is strongly visible out there. I can see Ananya, I can see Sreyash, Mandisha Kashyap, right? Shrishti Senani is there. Okay, so I'm going to be sharing my screen, and I'm going to first talk about the economic survey, which was presented today. So just give me a moment. I hope my screen is visible to all of you. Just show of thumbs, and I will know that, and I'm also going to unmute you all. So if you really want to speak, then you can just raise your hand. Don't interrupt. And if I see raised hands, then I will certainly go back to you. So everyone has the right to unmute themselves, right? And we also have some of the students, right? Harshit, I can see you, right? Okay, I can also see Zoeb, who's here. So great to see all of you back. As I said, the Economic Survey 2023 was presented by Mrs. Nirmala Sitharaman. And, so what's the big news? The big news is, and I really want to highlight some of the things, right? So the big news is India has recovered from the impact of COVID, the impact of, COVID. So pre-COVID, in the year March 2020, right, India's economy had clocked a GDP. In terms of the real GDP number, it was about 145 lakh crores. And this year it is going to, it's, estimated that it will clock about 154 lakh crore. So it had gone down in real terms for 2 years, and it has fully recovered. So that's the big news. The per capita income, right? How many of you, I'm not sure how many of you actually know what's the per capita income of India. So the per capita income of India is 1,70,000 rupees 1,70,000, or in dollar terms, it is closer to $2,100, right? It's still much less as compared to if you think of United States, which would be about 36 or $33,000. So that's the scale difference. If you look at many of the European countries, that would still be at about $60,000, right? So we still have a long journey to make. The GDP forecast for the current year ending on March 2023, right? Current year is 7%. Last year, the GDP growth rate was 8.7%, and the forecast for next year is in the range of 6% to 6.7%. So Shubham, I'll just come to you. Thanks for raising your hand. Now, what is fueling the growth of India? There are 5 crucial growth drivers, as you can see. One is the private consumption. Private consumption is people like us, right? Every home, even a poor farmer home, a rickshawala home, a doctor's home, my home, your home, all of us, we consume. And the private consumption is roughly about 58.5% of GDP. India has been doing a fairly robust capital expenditure. Capital expenditure mostly goes towards infrastructure creation, roads, highways, ports, airports, hospitals, schools, etc. And it is said that higher capital spending leads to long-term value creation for the economy. The corporate balance sheet of Indian companies, for example, Reliance, Tata Group, etc., Indigo, all these companies, they have become stronger. And when we say stronger, which means that they can borrow more money, right? Weak balance sheet means the ability to borrow money from market is less. The strong balance sheet means that you can borrow more money. If you can borrow more money, you can spend more money, you can invest, you can create more industries, factories, etc. So that's a good news for economy. Then one of the good things which has happened is the small businesses, which is the foundation for equitable growth in economy. The loans to small business, which was always problematic, it has increased. And I'm sure you were aware 2 years back, a lot of people during COVID times, they were going back to their villages. Now all the migrant workers, they have come back to cities. They're back in their factories, and India is actually doing far more better, right? So Shubham, you can fire your question right now.
Good evening, sir. Sir, my question is that here, as you have mentioned, the GDP growth rate for the financial year 2022 was 8.7%, and as we go to financial year 24, it is reducing, sir. So, what is the cause that the GDP growth rate should be reduced in India?
Right. So, great question, Shubham, and I'll touch upon that question. Now, first of all, please note that 7% growth rate is a great growth rate for GDP, right? So if you think just for quiz purpose, and people can use the chat box to give their response. So here's the quiz question. What could be the GDP growth rate of any developed economy like US, UK, Germany, Japan? I am looking at the chat box for answers. So let's see what. So Harshit has quickly, off the block, is writing 2%, right? So anyone else? Harshit, well done, right? So if you think of large economies, they grow in the vicinity of 2% to 3%, right? All mature economies. And, a high growing economy like India, China. So China has been growing at 7%, 8%, even 10% for long periods of time. About 5 years back, India was growing at about 5%, in the vicinity of 5%. Now, why this year it has gone down? If you look at last 12 months, it has been problematic for the world. Ukraine is one big factor. And then there's been a global slowdown, right? So, and India is part of the globe, so that's one of the reasons. If you actually look at FY24, which is the next 12 months, people expect that India is going to grow in the range of 6% to 6.7%. Now, one can argue that between 8.7 to 6.7, it's a, some reduction, but it is 6.7% real growth rate, and it's a great thing for a country, right? So big the growth drivers for India is increase in private consumption, or not. I would say increase in private consumption. I have a second quiz question for all of you. Let's see who gets this. And this is to do with this one, right? So in a developed economy, what percentage of GDP is private consumption? So think of US, think of UK, Europe, Japan. Chat box, anyone can give the answer, right? So Harshit is again off the block, 80, right? Daksh is saying about 70 to 80%, more than 70%, right? Now, just to bring to your attention, all large economies are largely because private consumption is very high. And if you think of large economies, it could be in the range of 80, 85, 88, 90, as high as that, right? So people who live in homes like us, we drive the economy. Now in India, it is different. Government plays a very important role in driving the economy. As compared to India, if you think of US, the role of government in driving the economy is much, much less. In UK, it is much, much smaller. But in India, it's very, very important. And that's why a lot of us depend on government. We keep on looking at government. That's why the budget is a very important day for us. All right. So I move forward. Now, what are the big headwinds, the big challenge that the economy is facing? So three big challenges that I want, and this is what economic survey is saying. So inflation, right? You're aware that we are in a period of high inflation. Now, the inflation for next 12 months is expected to be in the range of 6.8%. In the previous year, it was in the range of about 7 to 7.5%. So there's some softening in inflation, but 6.8 is still too high, right? The second big challenge, right? What economic survey is saying about inflation, that it will take time to settle down. A good rate of inflation is about 2 to 4%, right? So if you look at developed economy, inflation is in the range of 2 to 4%. This year, developed economy, especially if you are staying in the UK, they are in a hyperinflation phase right now, right? It could be as high as 10, 12. They're saying electricity inflation in the UK is about 40%, right? So which means that if you were paying, if your energy bill was let's say 50 pounds, this year it's going to be 70 pounds. If your energy bill was 100 pounds, this year it's going to be 140 pounds. That's the kind of inflation, energy inflation is being seen there. The second big challenge for India is what is called current account deficit. Current account is nothing but export minus import, which means that we import more, export less. And it was always known. But if the fuel prices globally keep on increasing, if commodity prices globally keep on increasing, right? So let's say we say that EVs are great, right? Now, we don't produce lithium, right? Which means that India has to import lithium. If we keep on importing more lithium, then our import bill will keep on rising, and the current account deficit keeps on increasing, right? So now, if current account deficit increases, anyone who wants to raise hand, what's the big challenge? What's the big problem if the current account deficit increases? Okay, Shubham, go ahead.
Yes, sir. Sir, if the current account deficit increases, then our Indian economy will be dependent on the foreign economy. That means it will get dependent on the foreign investment, and the local production of India will decline, because of which the self-sufficiency of India will decline.
Okay, that's one. Can you, I'll request everyone to keep very brief. To a common man, what's the problem if the current account deficit rises?
Sir, if we increase the import
Daksh,
and decrease.
Daksh, let me give this to Daksh now. And
So
then
basically,
Harshit.
gross domestic product means like the flow between imports and exports. So it's obvious like if exports are more than imports, then there will be a negative impact in GDP. So
Okay,
that's why like we are advertising Make in India to like grow the GDP of a country.
fantastic. Okay, Harshit.
Yeah, so if our fiscal deficit is high, we will have to borrow more money and we will have to pay interest on that, and our taxpayer money will be used on that.
But I'm asking of current account deficit.
Yes, current account deficit में हमें loan
If
देना
we
पड़ेगा.
are exporting less, importing more. So, to a common person like us, the biggest challenge with
Rupee की value devalue हो जाती है.
yes,
Rupee
yes.
value
So the
yeah.
value of currency depreciates, right? So if you know, about a year back, dollar was you could have purchased dollar in 70 to 72 rupees. Today it's at 80, 82 rupees, right? And if there is pressure, then the dollar will still move up, right? So if you have to travel to US, if you're a student who's thinking of higher studies abroad and everything, your parents' bill will increase. Okay, so that's the problem that we are facing. The third problem which we are facing and which Harshit touched upon, right? And this is, our interest payment. If you look at, country as country, we do a lot of borrowing. Now, if you look at this blue line is rising. Now, this big rise was because of COVID, but earlier the interest payment was at the level of if you can look at the blue line, interest pay, or even the red line, or the green line. Green line is interest payment as a proportion of total tax collection, right? So the interest payment earlier was in the range of about 30%. It has moved up to 35%, which means that we have borrowed more to grow in the last 2-3 years, right? So that we must understand. Now, what is the good news? The big good news is the graph on the right side. If you can see the green line again, right? This is the GST collection. So the average GST collection of India has spiked up. So if you can look at this green line, the average line is at about 1.4 lakh crore. So per month, India's GST collection is in the range of 1.4 lakh crore. A year back, it was in the range of about 1.2 lakh crore. And a year prior, it was in the range of 95,000 crore, right? So that's the good news. So if government can, if government runs on tax collection, so if the tax collection is better, which means that government can service the loan better, they can spend more money on capital expenditure and all that, right? So that's what the current government has done in the last 1 year. The capital expenditure on infrastructure. You are aware of this thing which is called Gati Shakti Yojana, right? So all that is going on, right? So and that's the good news. So if you look at rising capex, which means that investment on creation of infrastructure, roads, railways, ports, airports, hospitals, schools, it has increased, right? So earlier it was at this level, right? And now it is at this level, at the range of about 3%, right? From about in the range of from 1.8% of GDP, it has moved to about 3% of GDP, which is a great thing, right? And infrastructure on the long run adds more value. Yes, Shubham, ask your question.
So my question is that although we are increasing our capital expenditure, but is it the fact that the output which is given by this capital expenditure is also increasing, or is it going at the same pace?
So when you increase capital expenditure, you don't get output immediately, right? So output growth rate is captured in GDP, but the long term, there will be shift in output growth rate, right? So if more roads are there, then more people will travel. More people can travel from anywhere to anywhere. They can travel faster. Earlier, it would take, between Mumbai and Delhi, it would take 60 hours for a truck to reach. Today, it takes 48 hours for the truck to reach, right? So the efficiency kicks in when better roads are built, right? Or better rail networks are built. Okay, and then think of more and more passengers they can, let's say I live in Delhi, right? More and more people can travel between Ludhiana and Delhi for work, right? Earlier it was not possible. Today, if you can build a train network where people can travel from Ludhiana to Delhi in 1 hour, you are creating huge amount of employment opportunities, and all those things could be possible. right? So that's the impact of capex. I want to talk about the state of loan, the state of government debt. So if you can look at this part, you can see the spike in government loan level. Earlier, it was in the range of 46-47% of GDP. It moved up towards 60% of GDP because of COVID, right? Now, is it a good thing or bad thing? Now, if you can look at developed countries, so for example, right, Japan had a loan of 170% of GDP, and it increased to 263% of GDP, right? Uh, so think of US, right? US had an average loan of in 2005 was 66% of GDP, and because of COVID, it increased to 128% of GDP. So every country printed currency notes, they took more loan from the central bank, and they are trying to now repay that loan back, right? So, and that was necessary to sort of help us move forward. I am moving to the next part, and this is on the social challenge, right? So I want you to talk to remember, right? While on one part, financially, India is doing really well, but if you look at Human Development Index, and this is for the year 2021, right? And also Human Development Index for 2020. So India's rank in global, you know, place was 132, which is not great, right? Earlier it was 130, which is again not great, right? So Switzerland is number 1 ranked country, Norway is number 2 ranked country, UK is at 18, and look at China. China is at 79. But what people say is that your rank in Human Development Index is also function of your per capita income, right? So per capita income, our per capita income is less. Look at per capita income of Switzerland. So you know the scale difference. It is 10 times. 10 times scale difference is there in per capita income. Now, if you look at what factors go into Human Development Index, so it is life expectancy at birth. So in Switzerland, people at birth, they are expected to live 84 years, but in India, they are expected to live 67 years. The expected years of schooling, so, people do 16 years of schooling there. In India, people do 12 years of schooling. Mean years of schooling, we still, on average, right? A lot of, we still have the problem of dropout, right? So on average, we do only 6.7 years of schooling. And in Switzerland, people will do about 14 years of schooling, right? So dropout is still a big social challenge. Health is still a big social challenge, right? So this is something which I really wanted to flag. In terms of energy, if you look at the energy consumption, and why energy is important, because energy is also linked to SDG, right? So you're aware of SDG goals. Sustainability is important. We have to, carbon emissions are something which is impacting the society. So if you look at India's energy mix, look at this green line. Can you see this green line? Can you see this green bar? And that green bar is increasing, which means that the proportion of renewable energy as a total energy mix is increasing, right? And which is the good news, right? So eventually we want it's expected that by 2030, the proportion, it will be largely green. The dependence on fossil fuel will be much less, right? And that is the way forward for the term which is now used is net zero, right? So net zero carbon emission, right? We have also launched something called National Green Hydrogen Mission. So I put all these things for you to read. If someone is getting energy portfolio, so read about all this thing and then talk about in your budget dialogues when we sort of move forward, right? Now agriculture, again, while the weight of agriculture in GDP has gone down, it is still very important. Why? Because a lot of people depend on agriculture for livelihood, right? So about 60% of India depends on agriculture for livelihood, for employment, for getting wages and all that, right? So it's very important. And what has happened in the last few years is this whole thing called MSP, which is minimum support price. So the wages that that goes to farmer if the MSP increase, their wage increases. Now, who pays for it? Maybe I'm not a farmer, so I buy household stuff. I buy paddy, maize, all that, right? And for which we end up paying. So for people like us, there could be inflationary impact of this, but it's also raising the overall income levels of people for equitable growth, right? So that's the thing. And if you look at the green bars for different any crop or any agricultural use, right? So if you see the green bar, you can see that every year there has been progressive increase in the agricultural support price, right? So this is a minimum support price that government determines at which things are procured. Now, the next big challenge for us is something which we call MSME challenge. Now, MSME are small micro enterprises, right? So you're aware that Think Startup supports entrepreneurs, young small businesses and all that, right? And why small businesses are important? Again, the same logic as agriculture, right? So there are very few large companies, right? But there are many small companies, right? There could be many small businessmen, small shop owners, kirana shop owners, etc., right? So the share of the role that MSME plays for equitable economic development is enormous. Now, I want you to look at the graph on the right side. And what is important is you can see that this is tape. This has it is nearly static or little downward sloping curve, right? Which means that the proportion, the weight of MSME as in the total manufacturing has gone down. Now, it's not great news, right? Now, there are two arguments. One argument is if you look at big, companies in the world, right? Toyotas and Volkswagens and Fords and Googles and Apples of the world, right? So large companies are becoming bigger and dominating force in the world, right? So there's one logic which says that we need large companies. But small companies are important because it provides very localized jobs. Large companies are very centralized, so there'll be more employment in Mumbai, Chennai, Bangalore, Delhi, and in smaller cities there'll be less employment, right? So it's important that MSMEs are taken care of. You can see that this blue line, it has a downward slope, and this must be taken care of, right? So this is something that again, the MSME share in export is you can see that it has gone down. So this is something of concern, and if someone is allocated industries portfolio, this is something that they should remember. The good news, which is a policy intervention, right? So anyone who can you see that the electronics export has risen from India? Is it visible? What could be the reason? Anyone who knows? Okay, Daksh, go ahead.
So one of the major reasons is basically everyone is like boycotting China. So like iPhones and like many phones are basically manufacturing in India. And other reasons is like rise of electronics companies from India, like both like Noise and these. I don't know Noise is Indian or not, but both is Indian. So like a few companies are rising from India.
Thanks, Daksh. Sorry, I'm coming in. I want everyone to read about something called this term called PLI. And PLI is production linked incentive, which has been offered to companies like Apple to come to India, and if they produce more, then they get more incentive, tax incentive from government, right? And that's the reason that electronics export from India has increased. Now, what happens if Apple comes to India? Then more high-end, high-quality jobs get created inside India, right? So if Samsung comes into India, sets up their manufacturing unit in India, then high-quality jobs are getting created. Or, for example, boat that you gave, right? So PLI, production linked incentive, and people are now saying that that policy, which was started about 2 years back, it has started to show result, and it should be extended beyond electronics. It should be extended to automobiles. It can be extended to chemicals or any of those stuff, right? So that's the logic. Then if you look at the export import stuff, you can see this exports going down. We talked, it's not a great news, right? And import also, it went up, but there has been some softening of fuel prices, so it has come down. But net, our imports are far higher than exports, and we really have to keep on doing something to keep on offsetting it, right? So that's the economic challenge. So friends, with this, I stopped sharing. This is the highlight of economic survey. This is the the first part of the presentation. Now coming to second part of the presentation, as I said, tomorrow morning, right, on the WhatsApp group, we will release tomorrow morning, or maybe sometime by afternoon, we'll release the allocation of ministries for all teams, right? So every team, we will allocate ministries. Now the format of NYP, as you're aware, it's going to be, there will be teams which will be allocated ministries, and there'll be teams which will be allocated shadow ministries, right? So let's say Daksh and Harshit, for example. So I can say that Harshit is industries minister, and Daksh could be a shadow minister of industry, which means that you are opposition. Understood, right? So the industries minister will present the industries budget, which will be extracted from Government of India's budget, which will be presented tomorrow, right? And opposition minister will then criticize that budget or say that this should be done, and then we'll give you 5 minutes time in a breakout room to come to some sort of consensus, 5-10 minutes of time, and then present to us a common budget between shadow minister and minister together for that ministry. Understood? Is the format understood by everyone? Give me your thumbs, right? Fantastic. Now we'll also allocate, tomorrow, the finance minister, the speaker, and all the sort of stuff, right? So there is a lot of competition. There's exciting stuff. We are deciding it on the basis of your video and the first answer you provided in terms of making why India is hope for 21st for this decade, right? So that's it. Now the last part of discussion today. Your videos will get uploaded, and there's also a YouTube competition which will go on till 8. Okay, so once it gets uploaded in the WhatsApp group, we will make all those videos go live at the same time tomorrow, and then we'll put the announcement, and then your timer starts, right? So till 8th, till the evening of 7th, and I'll put the right communication, till the evening of 7th, whichever teams gets a max like, comment, share on the YouTube video, they get the YouTube prize, right? So the most popular prize, right? There are exciting prizes for the best presentations, right? Best speech, etc., etc. In terms of format, once again, I repeat, I have shared this with you. So every team, right? And you have to bring in all your team members. On 3rd at 6:45, everyone signs in. All right? On 3rd February, which is today is 31st, right? So on 3rd February at 6:45, everyone signs in. 7 p.m., we have the Speaker of Lok Sabha. He will come. He will deliver the inaugural address. He will also deliver us the oath of office to the NYP parliamentarians, right? And once he is done, then we will have one ministry discussion. So I'll put the exact chart. We'll go alphabetical sequence. So whoever is agriculture minister, they'll be and animal husbandry, they'll be the first minister who will be presenting, and also the shadow minister will debate, right? So that will also set the tone, for all of us what to expect. And then from 4th onwards, we'll have at least 5 minutes, at least 7-8 ministries going together, right? So 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, every day it is 7 to 9 p.m., right? Shubham, your question. And anyone who has questions, please raise your hand. I can take all the questions.
Yes. So in the query video link which you had sent us before, I think yesterday. So in that you had told that whichever ministry will be allocated to a particular team, that team will get the paper and the documents from which they have to study. Sir, so can you share the presentation which you just
I
now shared
will
with us?
I will
Okay.
share this presentation, of course, but this is not the exact document. The exact document I'll share it tomorrow once the budget is presented, right? Once so tomorrow finance minister will present the budget, and we will have one more briefing session tomorrow, right? 7:15 to 8, right? When you will get the allocation of ministries. Uh, I'll talk you through and also walk you through the budget document, and I'll also take you to the website from where you can take the right information. Is that clear, Shubham?
Yes. Thanks.
Okay. Yeah, Shrishti, go ahead.
So my question is that in the video, our team has submitted that how our idea can be world's hope in 2023. So is that all right?
Of course. Yes. Yes, Daksh.
So my question is basically, our ministry will be decided on a video or it will be randomly allocated?
No, video and your first write-up.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Okay. So anyone else has any question? I hope everyone is there with team, and tomorrow we'll have another round of session. As I said, I'll walk you through the from where to get the right authentic information, and we'll do the allocation of ministries and the shadow ministries. Yes, Shubham, your question.
Yes, sir. So my question is that, sir, for a particular team, from a particular team, the leader will be the minister, sir. But what would be the allocation for the rest of the 2 or 4 members?
So listen, essentially, it's a teamwork, right? So that's why it's a team. And if you think of any ministry in India today, there is a main minister, and then there are ministers of state, right? And I would expect that you do some sort of teamwork, right? It doesn't mean that if you're a minister, then you just keep the mic and then talking. You can split between three of you to talk about how you want to use your 5 minutes, right? Make sense?
Yes.
Okay. Right. Okay. Any other question? Okay. So we will have allocation of ministries. We'll also announce the finance minister. We'll also announce the speakers and all that, and everything is there tomorrow. Okay. Good luck, and I'll share this PPT in the chat box, in the WhatsApp group. All right. This is also on YouTube, so you can go to the Think Startup channel, and you can watch this if you really want to watch this. Take care.